forgive students the first $50,000 in student loan debt with an executive order. Now, here's the thing that people don't understand about this. People think, oh, that sounds great, student loans, right? Most people watch this who go out and protest and go, I'm bogged down with student loans. You should be. You made bad choices. Not everyone, but most of you. Oh, I'm bogged down with student loans, says nobody who aced their way through medical school, residency, and then
What? No. Okay, Steven Crowder has never met a person. Like, I just realized that, like he's just never met a human, I think. Like, have you met a fucking med school student that isn't like a trust fund baby? Even trust fund baby med school students are like not necessarily having a great time. That shit's a lot of debt, dude.
Actually fulfilled their chosen profession. That's not what happens. Same thing if you go to law school. In general, underwater basket weaving, gender studies, you might be out there at a Bernie rally. I understand where you're coming from. I'm trying to walk a mile in your shoes, but they're Toms.
Dude, what is he saying? Like what if you're a lawyer and you want to become a public defender? So many fucking lawyers literally take jobs with massive corporations and do corporate law, even though they don't want to do that, even though they want to fucking defend people exclusively so they can pay off their fucking insane loans. Now, that is before we even talk about gender studies. It's like, what is the argument of these fucking morons? First of all, you're a theater kid, okay? So you don't get the shit on social sciences. You're not even a fucking STEM lord yourself. So shut the fuck up, you dumb bitch. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm going to curse a little bit. He's over here talking shit about actually what you do. He's over here talking shit about the art. He's being a dumb bitch. She hates it when I curse. What do you mean, like, gender studies? First of all, who the fuck cares if someone's studying gender studies? Secondly, you can't disrespect the arts, for example, or social sciences as though anthropology does not truly benefit other fields that you would never even consider. The world would be so gray and awful if it weren't for the arts. It would be horrible if we didn't have classically trained musicians and shit. Like this theater kid himself. And this is why it's so funny. It's like he's a theater kid LARPing as a STEM lord, okay? Because he knows that a lot of his audience are like those weirdo, like I'm hyper rational YouTubers who think that their understanding of the world or their understanding of social sciences absolutely comes from people like this. That's why so many of those morons that you probably have in your classes too, even though I have a lot of STEM lords in my community as well, so many of those fucking morons are like misguided by these sorts of big brain takes. Like Ben Shapiro, literally an English major, wasn't he? I think he was like poli-sci or English. Or he did pre-law and then went to law school.
So here's something people understand. The highest income households in the United States owe 60% of student loan debt, while the lowest income households owe less than 20% of outstanding student loan debt. Because lower income households, they typically either go to a community college, a trade school, or get something known as a scholarship.
So here's the thing, like if you're poor, you should just not have the opportunity to go into a field that you might be incredibly good at. Oh no, sorry. The arts are just for the rich. And if you couldn't secure a scholarship for yourself, then who cares? Sucks to suck. That's not for you. You go to trade school. And by the way, the trade school shit could be incredibly rewarding, unless we're talking about like Full Sail University, even though there are some people in here that have gone to trade schools like that and have found some success. But trade schools, especially when it comes to like, you know, if you're becoming a carpenter or some shit, then they can be incredibly rewarding. I know someone who had a marketing degree, left that, got a union job, went to a trade school, and is now, I think he's an electrician. I'm not entirely certain, but it doesn't matter. He is a lot happier doing that shit than pursuing a job in marketing and advertising.
The people who have crazy student loan debt are people who shift their majors every 3 years from German poetry to gender studies to Afro-lesbian studies, which is an actual thing in Michigan.
It is.
And then all of a sudden you find yourself accounting for 60% of the student loan debt. Think about this for a second. This is effectively a handout to the wealthy. 56% of student loan debt is for graduate school.
Unbelievable. You shouldn't
really? Yeah, 56% of student loan debt, we have this from the Brookings Institute, is for graduate school. Most people with advanced degrees who owe a lot, they should pay it off easily unless it's a useless degree.
Right.
There is no such thing. Like, I'm sorry. This is such a peasant mindset, dude. And I don't mean like the cool peasants that involve themselves in like a peasant uprising. I mean the dumb peasants who were like, no, it's okay. I nothing should be better for me. I deserve to be here. The God gave all the power to the feudal lord, and I am destined to toil the land. And that's what Steven Crowder is doing, except he isn't just doing that. He's getting other peasants to never rise up. It's like, why shouldn't you fucking learn something? Like, why should you limit your opportunities in learning something? There is no such thing as a useless degree. Now, useless is so subjective in this circumstance. Useless is an entirely capitalist point of view.
After the North American Free Trade Agreement, you look at Joe Biden's policies and Barack Obama's policies, and you look at the unemployment rate in the United States. You look how it affected Black American families. You look how the average household income only went up by $1,000 in 8 years under Obama, and then you look at $5,000 on average under the first term of Donald Trump, and you look at this, and people say, oh, that sounds, people shouldn't have student debt. Well, first off, incorrect. People should have student debt if they go to schools and they decide to procure a degree that is useless or that costs a lot of money. Anyone can go to
Come on, dude. This is so stupid. How are you from like a fucking middle class family and you watch Steven Crowder and not recognize that he's literally telling you like you ain't shit. You're worthless. You're only worthwhile as long as you are a cog in the machine for the fucking capital owning gods because of our supposedly meritocratic system, which is demonstrably not a real meritocracy and does not exist and will probably never exist. He's basically just saying like, no, this is that stuff is for the rich people. Like, you're poor. If you're poor, sucks to suck. Shut the fuck up. Like, you should only put yourself under debt if you can pay for it in the future. When he comes from Canada, where he knows for a fucking fact that colleges is significantly more affordable, or European nations exist. Motherfucking Turkey has free college, man. That's crazy. Like, we have public universities that you can get into and get a free education. It's nuts, dude.
Community college, and anyone can get their grades up and get a scholarship. I know a kid who was a pothead loser in high school.
Hi.
Sorry, Jordan. Sorry, he's a Harvard law grad, cum laude. He's the guy who Bill was introduced by this guy.
Yeah.
This friend of
Great
mine.
guy.
He was a pothead burnout. Then he met a wonderful woman who he's married to now. He said,
Mexico just for the record, like, this is why it's funny. I majored in creative arts. Like, at least I got a fucking political science degree, but you will never fucking hear me do this. Like, this is such a dumb, idiotic take. Like, my man literally fucking got a creative arts degree. That's why I'm, like, making fun of him. He's like a theater kid LARPing as a STEM lord, dude. Bitch, you did arts and crafts for college. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, that's actually not even true. Creative arts is not easy at all. Three-dimensional design, or was it two-dimensional design? Whatever. My first introductory like arts course is the reason why I fully that put the final nail in the coffin, where I was like, I can't do this. This is way too fucking difficult. What about having a weighted uni debt payment scheme so those fields like medicine and law pay less and those doing art pay more interest since they're more likely to be able to pay their debt off? No, there should be no fucking debt. Like, there should be an opportunity for people to be able to go to a free college education, get a free college education. It's nuts that it does not exist in this country.
You're going to get your crap together. Went to community college, got straight A's, went to UT, got straight A's, then went to Harvard on some kind of a grant or scholarship because he was an outstanding student, got straight A's, graduated cum laude. This is a kid who came from a rough background, from a poor background.
Oh yeah, let's use an anecdote. It's like, instead of looking at this anecdote and saying like, well, shouldn't it be great that like, you know, this person should have an easier time, easier go at it? Like, nah. Just ace your student loans like my friend did in my fake made-up story.
And he was already behind the 8 ball because he was doing nothing but skateboarding and smoking weed all day. Now, I know the potheads out there who are going to get mad. I'm not saying that everyone who smokes a pothead is a burnout loser, though you probably are if you're offended by this and you're going to comment in the section.
Yeah.
I don't think you're one of the high-functioning executives who occasionally dabbles in tincture. I think...
God, he's such a nerd. Who the fuck watches this nerd and goes, oh my God, he's so funny and cool? When I see stuff like this, I'm like, we should bring back bullying, dude. I mean, we've gone too far. I think we've normalized conservatives too much. I'm kidding. I don't think we should bring back bullying. But God damn. Pot smokers are bad. You're a loser. Who the fuck likes this dweeb, dude?
That you are what we're talking about.
Well, some of us went to Lansing Community College and sold drugs and paid off their tuition in 5s and 10s.
See? And that's called America.
Yeah, that's hard work.
Yeah. That's entrepreneurship right there,
business.
baby.
If he was black, Steven Crowder would literally be like, I'm calling the cops right now. I heard a black man sold drugs back in the day. That's illegal, sir. That's illegal. But it's a white dude in a robe in his studio, so he's like, ha ha, that's America, baby. Yeah, fucking little bitch.
It really does bother me, though. It's like, you don't have to go to college.
No.
This is your choice.
Go back to Canada, dude.
Responsible for the decision that you've made to do this with your life.
This is a perfect example of it sounds good on paper. And what the media does is try and say, oh, look, this will help people of color. This will help the disenchanted minorities in this country who need a leg up. They are not the people who are incurring most of the student loan debt. It's usually people who come from well-to-do families who decide to go into useless degrees and fields. And for some reason, now you, the working class American citizen who did not impale yourself on the spike of student debt, you are going to be the one.
Is the argument here for a free college? Because that's all I'm hearing. Like, I'm hearing we should also allow everyone to be able to have those same opportunities, and not necessarily the wealthy that should be subjected to these financial penalties for trying to better themselves and become more competitive in the labor force. Because again, free college education would mean, and free trade schools as well, would mean we have a more competitive labor force in the global marketplace. So it's only a good thing. Only fucking idiots who think that college makes people into Antifa, gender Marxists or whatever the fuck these morons believe would be against more college education. Free college education is very good. It's a very good thing, and it should absolutely be offered so that more people can get college education. My friend says that a college degree is just a sticker saying that you did your time. How do I counter this argument from a left perspective? He's quite conservative, but I know he's just confused. College isn't about actually learning whatever the fuck you're getting into, unless you're going to like grad school and shit, or specializing in a field specifically. A lot of what you learn on the job once you get into the professional world, or even if you're like going into finance, for example. A lot of that is literally you studying for tests, the series exams that you need to take. And that's where you learn a lot of that. But most importantly, you learn it on the job. College isn't necessarily just for, this is of course not the same for STEM degrees for the most part, like engineering and shit. Like you still learn a lot that and it has a lot of practical utility. But college is basically a jobs program for being able to go to the networking places and going to the career days and shit like that, and being able to secure a free internship if you're rich enough to be able to only get an internship, and then eventually end up getting a job there, like a full-time employment opportunity. So most of what college is for, on the other hand, is for developing critical thinking skills and also learning about a world outside of your fucking town. Okay? For so many people, they live in segregated communities. They never leave. They never get to meet even people from other countries, for example. Obviously, this is dependent on where you live in America, but like a big part of college is, in my opinion, for having the label of adulthood with not a lot of the responsibilities of adulthood. Being able to do that with all these other people in your age group is truly a unique unique experience that everyone should be able to have. And if you also find something that you are truly interested in doing, then it's great that you get to learn that in college as well.
I wonder why the union members, not the union leaders, not the union actual representatives, but people who are members of unions in the Midwest overwhelmingly vote.
This guy's literally, okay, cue the video. Give me the video. Steven Crowder talked about unions. It's obligatory. Steven Crowder went and got his shit rocked and then lied about how these big, scary union guys were beating on him. They were beating him, the big, scary unions. Of course, he was there to agitate against the unions because, back in the day, Fox News used to be way more mask off about their anti-union sentiments. Now that unions have been completely eviscerated in this country, they don't even need to fucking act like they hate the unions. They could just be like, I stand with the unions, of course. If you're a union guy, then that's good. Like, we love the working class. Come on, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, bitch, you don't. And you played a significant role in destroying these unions. So
voted for Donald Trump because these people are working on the assembly line, and then they're talking about under this potential president, depending on the state, up to 62% marginal tax rates, paying for kids who are getting degrees in gender studies and poetry and philosophy.
Like, oh God. I need to know how many people in the U.S. have gender studies degrees. I need to know what Steven Crowder is crying about. Cultural and gender studies. So Steven Crowder is constantly talking about gender studies. Turns out, in 2017, only 14,000 gender studies degrees were awarded in 2017. Wow. Seems kind of weird to just exclusively cover. Let's see how many people get STEM degrees. About over the 1.8 million bachelor's degrees awarded in 2015 and 2016, about 331,000, 18% were STEM fields. Oh, wow. By the way, there are more gender studies majors in the workforce than there are coal miners in America, but Steven Crowder loves to fucking talk about the other as like saving the economy. Just remember that.
Of course that plays poorly with the American public, and that's why it's remarkable that Joe Biden could win an election. The only reason that he would be able to is because the media never talks about this, because he doesn't speak the language of the middle class. He hasn't seen Scranton. Also, he didn't win the election.
That's true.
Allow me to sort of help you follow the money trail. Okay. All right. Here's Timmy. He's getting a degree in Afro-lesbian-centric studies. Okay. Afro-lesbian funk. Okay. At U of M.
Oh, yeah.
A
Here he is.
doctor.
He gets a loan. Here's the two universities. Here's Timmy. Okay. So you know what? Here, let's move this. This is Timmy. This is the university. This is the loan.
Yeah.
All right. So Timmy wants to go to the university and get a degree in Afro-lesbian funk. Okay. He gets a loan from the bank, and that gets paid to the university, right? At this point. And of course, that's paid with interest. The university gets the money. This money has already gone through. So now Timmy has a useless degree and he's in debt. And what's going to happen is he owes the bank. The university already has the money. Now what they're going to do is absolve him of his debt by giving this money to the bank. What do you think happens with that school? We got away with that one. Let's charge more money next time.
Yeah. There's a lot more people that can afford
What do we charge him? We charged him $50,000 so we could make up the difference with an out-of-state grant. All right, let's charge him $7 and pay it anyway. Stupid factory worker. Shouldn't have gone to trade school, bitches. Think about that for a second. It's going to make it worse. Of course that's going to cause inflation. There's no reason for schools to compete and bring down tuition costs. The idea of forgiving student loans encourages the actual, now people use the term predatory lending, right, with banks, where it's like, no, this, again, the problem there, when all of these scenarios, the same thing with school tuition, in every scenario when you look at out of control inflated costs, what you find is government interventionism. Okay, let's look at the insurance.
Yep.
Right? Airlines. Student loans, right? When you deal just any kind of medical issue. Do you want to tell me that those are energy? Those are unregulated industries? For crying out, this always makes it worse. What makes it worse when you say, oh, everyone has to purchase health insurance, we're going to punish them, we're actually going to charge you a fine if you don't purchase health insurance. By the way, health insurance, you have to accept anyone with pre-existing conditions.
Right.
Oh, good. Well, then at that point, I guess, but is there like a limit on the rate we can charge? No limit. Okay. Then it's $20,000 a month.
What is he doing? What is he even saying? Like, I've lost it. I can't. He's rambling about fucking what?
For crying out, this always makes it worse. What makes it worse when you say, oh, everyone has to purchase health insurance, we're going to punish them, we're actually going to charge you a fine if you don't purchase health insurance. By the way, health insurance, you have to accept anyone with pre-existing conditions.
Right.
Oh, good. Well, then at that point, I guess, but is there like a limit on the rate we can charge? No limit. Okay. Then it's
Wait, is he actually making an argument that like pre-existing conditions protections should not exist? I'm having a hard time with this one. This is really in 2020, the year of our holy Lord.
$20,000 a month. Thanks, Fed. What do you think happens with houses? People say predatory lending. All right, the government steps in and says, you are going to lend this money to these people who cannot afford this house.
Right.
That's not really what we do here at this bank of making money. Oh, really?
Oh, dude, the conservative talking points are so insanely predictable.
Well, here's the thing. If they can't actually pay you back, we're going to give you the money. All right, sold.
Well, it's like they're explaining.
Banks did predatory lending. The FBI even classified it as such. It was profitable. This dude is so stupid. No, you don't understand. It's the government that forced banks to engage in predatory lending. Oh, you simple fool. Like, banks never would do predatory lending if it wasn't for the government forcing their hand. That's what it is. Oh, you fool.
Explaining to insurance people what insurance is, and the insurance people are like, no, you can't accept people with pre-existing.
Yeah.
That's not what insurance is.
No.
And they're explaining.
Well, just charge them more. Oh, okay, and then we'll pay the bill. And then you go to schools. So we have homes, we have insurance, and now we have schools. If they go to kids, where they go, okay, listen. So if school, let's say you can afford what, $10,000? All right, we're going to charge $50,000 because Uncle Sam is none the wiser. There are a bunch of grants and scholarships that we can find to make up that difference. There's an incentive to make school unaffordable. Otherwise, you're leaving tens of thousands of federal dollars on the table. In all of these scenarios, it's the government coming, and by the government, I mean the taxpayer's dime.
This is why neoliberalism is cancer, because neoliberal Democrats try to act like they want some regulation while they want the exact same style, like the same market-based system to continue. So conservatives can come in and look at the half measures that conservatives in other fucking European countries wouldn't even dare dream of. Like neoliberals in the EU would be advocating, maybe in certain circumstances, for what Democrats advocate for here in the United States, as far as like market-based alternatives, right? And that's what's deeply frustrating to me, because that is a band-aid solution, Republicans can look at that and be like, and pick that apart and shit on it. Like what he's saying isn't entirely incorrect as far as the government availability and fat offerings of federal loans and how college campuses that operate for profit, how they can continue to charge more and more fees. But that's because we don't have fucking alternatives like public universities. And that's the most annoying part about it.
At which Joe Biden has suckled at the teat, upon the teat of the taxpayer for 67 years now at this point. They are the ones who come in and they say, oh, you know what, we'll just pay for Timmy's Afro lesbian.
What the fuck is neoliberalism exactly? So many lib words thrown out. Okay. Neoliberalism is basically what you know as like free market libertarians, pretty much. They want no government intervention, and that the free market, devoid of any sort of government intervention, can handle all of these problems, okay? And government regulation and government intervention is actually what makes it bad. Now, the problem is, this is an idea that Ronald Reagan adopted fully, while Margaret Thatcher in the UK adopted that fully, right? Unfortunately for us, the Democratic Party also shifted towards neoliberalism in the Bill Clinton era, like full-blown neoliberalism in the Bill Clinton era, with their own market reforms, with their own version of neoliberalism. That's the point that gets lost in a lot of circumstances. Democrats also, on top of that, try to at least add certain interventions, or at least want to add certain points of regulation. But, I mean, Bill Clinton's like welfare reform and things of that nature are pretty much in line with neoliberalism everywhere else. Like, similar to even Ronald Reagan, I would say. I'm from Belgium and school is fully free. Does that mean we are neoliberal? No, neoliberalism is a inherently right-wing ideology. It's an inherently right-wing political system. There is no like left-wing neoliberalism. In America, the Democratic Party is considered left, but it's not actually left. When it comes to economic policies, the Democratic Party is neoliberal. When it comes to social issues, the Democratic Party is supposed to be liberal, and it's because they are more progressive. The Democratic Party is progressive on social issues, but still fiscally incredibly conservative because they are a neoliberal party. That's the difference between neoliberalism in America, when both parties are neoliberal. Both the Democratic Party is neoliberal and the Republican Party is neoliberal, but Republican Party on top of that is very, very socially conservative. Yeah, it's the difference between Democrats being center-right and the Republicans being far-right. That's why liberal parties in most European countries are center-right parties. Liberals in European countries are people who are center-right for the most part. That's why Labor parties are actually the left parties, depending on what country you're talking about. Like, for example, in the UK, Lib Dems are most similar to the Democratic Party in the United States. That's a center-left or center-right, depending on where you're at. Center-right party. Liberal Democrats in the UK are the center-right party. Tories are the far-right party. Would you say neoliberalism is a tactical compromise on behalf of Democrats to compensate for Republican Party's neoconservatism? No, it's not a tactical compromise. It's a blind ideological loyalty to capital-owning gods and masters. That's all it is. There's no fucking ideological compromise. What is the compromise? What kind of compromise are they doing? They're not even compromising for the most part. There's no compromise when it comes to gigantic fucking tax cuts for the wealthy and deregulating industries, like and only putting in very little limited regulation when Democrats are in power. How can half of our country think Dems are communists and yet Dems are center right? How is this possible? I mean, you hear how fucking stupid those people are who say Democrats are communists. The people who say that the Democratic Party are communists are fucking brain dead. Like, what do you, like people who fucking believe that the world is flat or some shit. Like, what do you want?
Be in funk degree. And what happens? Yeah. Inflation out of control. Yeah. You saw it with home mortgage. You saw it with homes, people getting homes they couldn't afford. You saw it with insurance premiums and deductibles skyrocketing. And you see it with student loan costs. What you have to do is actually stop subsidizing these schools and their predatory rates. These people are taking advantage of students by charging them more than they can afford because the federal government makes up the gap. That's where it's predatory, not banks being forced at a gun of
Wait. You can't just own yourself. If the schools are predatory in that circumstance, then you get the banks were predatory in the previous one. Wait. You just literally admitted. Wait, you just said it. You literally just said it. You can't just say that. You can't switch. Are people this stupid? On the one hand, he's saying banks are not predatory for engaging in predatory lending. It's the government. And then he turns around and he goes, schools are predatory in engaging in predatory lending in a similar capacity or taking advantage of the government and its offerings on the financial compensation. Like, so you admit that schools are predatory and so are the banks, which is weird. That's so dumb.
Rates. These people are taking advantage of students by charging them more than they can afford because the federal government makes up the gap. That's where it's predatory, not banks being forced at a gun of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac to give a house to someone who can't afford it. I don't care what the Big Short tells you.
That was insane. That is a very cool note to end it on. He's like, banks are not predatory. It's the government that's predatory because the government is offering a safety net for banks to engage in predatory lending, and that's why they're doing it. But schools are predatory because the government is giving them a safety net in a similar capacity to banks so that they can engage in, this sort of behavior and keep jacking up their prices.
Like, immediately. There's no conversation. You just got...
I'm going to end up going on his show. We are now... my podcast, which, by the way, we're going to be doing a dry run finally, is under the same network as his. So who knows? Podcast with me and Will.